Good morning to everybody. This is Ian Campbell and Mark L. with Alpha Capital. We are the 401k advisors, part of the 401k plan. And today we're going to go over the benefits of saving for retirement, as well as the details in the 401k plan, and also how to enroll in the 401k plan. I've actually sent an email to Philip earlier this morning, and he can definitely pass that on to you guys with the necessary documents and attachments that we'll be looking at today. Everybody can complete everything electronically or online. There's nothing that each of you will need to be printing out at all. So make sure you're mindful of that. And if there's any questions that you all have, we're also available for any one-on-one help, and you can reach out to us at any time. And we'll show you our contact information here shortly. It's also going to be in the body of the email as well. So the first document that we're going to be looking at and diving into first is going to be the online enrollment packet. It is a 15-page document, and starting on the second page is really the heart of this whole process. And the first step is to go to the provider's website, which is Retirement Plan Consultants, and they are what's called the record keeper. And they're going to be the platform and service that you're going to go to access your account, make any adjustments to contribution rates, investments, and so on. So this website link is what you'll go to at first. And I've actually got that pulled up on my screen. I'm going to drag it over here so you can see it. Just to create some familiarity, you can actually bookmark this web page and URL, because this will be used for all future logins once you create that username and password. For the very first time, you will click that online enrollment button up in the top left corner that I've highlighted in blue. That's going to flip that screen and then allow you to type in that plan password. And the plan password was back on the middle of this page here, and it's PasTime, P-A-S-T-I-M-E, all capital letters. So make sure you do reference that when you are completing the online enrollment. After you hit next, you'll then be prompted through the guided steps to complete the enrollment. On this page, or on this document, starting on page 9, there's actually going to be a screenshot and a tutorial walkthrough around exactly what I just showed you, and also all future steps. So you'll go to the website, click online enrollment, you'll type in the plan password, hit next, you'll be prompted to put in your social security number and date of birth for authentication, and then you'll be able to create a username and password and then answer and input those other questions. So if you have any questions throughout that enrollment process, definitely refer back to pages 9 and 15, or 9 through 15 of this enrollment guide. That's going to be very helpful. I did want to bring to light one piece that sometimes hangs folks up if they're not reviewing this information, is this fourth step. Once you're about halfway through that process, you'll see where it says you can select the source of money for your investments. And just make sure everybody is selecting where it says all sources of money. So make sure you are completing that, and then you'll hit next. So there are 4 primary questions that folks will be facing as they're completing this online enrollment process. And we find it easier just to go over the paper version of the PDF enrollment form to give you a heads up of what type of information you're going to be completing and filling out throughout this online enrollment. And while we're going through those questions, we're going to talk about those plan details like eligibility, enrollment, as well as company match and investment choices. So the first piece is going to be very self-explanatory. It's all your contact information. Now, this document that you're looking at now is included in that PDF enrollment book. It is 55 pages in length, so be mindful of making sure you got your page count or page numbers listed before you hit and print. The first part is all self-explanatory. The one piece that you may not have at your fingertips is going to be your date of hire. So get with Philip, confirm with him that you've got your date of hire appropriately listed there, and you're going to need that as you're completing the online version of this. What's also important for this form is for those who wish not to participate in this plan at this time, this will actually serve as a waiver for you. So in the event that you say no, you will still need to complete this top section, and you'll actually select this first box here where it says I elect not to contribute at the plan at this time. And then you'll turn that back into Philip. Philip, you'll keep that for your records to kind of cover your butt that the employee has been presented the plan. At that time, they waived not to participate, and then you can hold that on to your records. There is what's called quarterly enrollment. So if you say no today or for that January 1 start, you can then enter in April or January or October in those following quarters or the beginning of the quarter subsequently into the future. So it's not a no forever, but we would really highly encourage everybody to participate because saving for retirement is very important. The earlier you can start saving with time value of money, compounding interest can have a very, very big impact to your overall retirement balance. So with that being said, we kind of started into that first of the 4 questions that I wanted to reference is, am I in or am I out? If you're not, then we're going to still have you complete that waiver. If you are going to participate, fantastic. You actually have a couple options from a contribution rate or contribution type. Those types of contributions is that second question. Is going to be traditional or a pre-tax contribution or a Roth contribution, which is after tax. And I'll explain the differences. The main difference between the two is when the money is taxed. In a Roth account, you're going to put money that you've already paid taxes on into the 401k plan. So you're paying taxes today. Whereas in a pre-tax or a traditional contribution, you're going to pay taxes as you withdraw the money in retirement. So depending on what your tax bracket is today versus what you see it to be in the future or in retirement, one may say that, hey, I'm going to be probably making more money down the road, or my tax bracket is going to be more in retirement. I want to withdraw that money, or I want to pay the taxes when the effective rate is lower. So there's not necessarily a perfect answer for everybody. The reason being is we don't know what tax rates are going to be in 10 years from now or 20 years from now or even 40 years from now for some folks. So being mindful that whatever you decide to do, either pre-tax or Roth, there's not really a crystal ball of saying this is exactly what you should be doing because it is somewhat of a best guess right now. As a rule of thumb, we tend to see folks that are, younger in nature or in their working careers or, in a lower tax bracket will tend to do Roth because they're trying to hedge their bets that they're going to pay a lower effective tax rate now versus sometime in the future. Folks that are looking to reduce their taxable income, let's just say you're making, $50,000 and you're saving $5,000, that's going to reduce your taxable income down to $45,000, and the government's going to tax you on that. That's going to be what's called a pre-tax or traditional option. One comment is if you're looking to maximize what you're putting in and for it to not affect your net take-home pay all that much, so you want to save as much as you can, but you don't want it to affect your net take-home pay as much as what you're saving, then the pre-tax option or that traditional option is going to be the best case scenario. With that being said, I wanted to see if there was any questions that either of you had on the traditional versus Roth before we get into the how much part.
No, I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay. So going to the third question is the how much, which is equally important, and I feel it's probably the most important decision. With that being said, the national average across all industries, all states, all age groups is at 8% from the participant's contribution. So individuals are saving 8% of their earnings into their retirement plan. So use that as kind of a watermark, but also be mindful that if you were to Google or pull up any research or trade journals around what should you particularly be saving into your retirement plan year after year, every research article that's probably worth it to read is going to state that you should be saving around 10% from your income. So be mindful that 10% is really that magic number or that goal for everybody to get to. So we would really encourage folks, if you're going to start out at maybe say 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or whatever, is to try to get up to that national average or beyond it to that goal of 10%. Getting up to that 10% number can really, really impact your overall retirement account balance as you are nearing towards the end of retirement. But saving early and saving as much as you can is going to be very important. So with that being said, what's also relevant to the how much question is the company match that's available to you as participants if you are participating in the plan. So you would only get the match if you are participating. And the match is what's called a basic safe harbor match. And it's a calculation, and I'll explain the calculation and also explain it a couple different ways. The calculation is 100% on the first 3% and then 50% on the next 2%. So another way to say it is if you put in 1%, the company match would be 1, 2 for 2, 3 for 3. And then if you put in 4, the company match would be 3.5. If you put in 5% of your contributions, the company match would be 4%. The company maximum is going to be 4% regardless if you put in over 5. So if you do 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10, or even more, you're still only going to get that 4% or that maximum of 4%. But in order to get that maximum, you have to put in at least 5%. So from a range, we would really like to see and encourage folks to be at 5% as a minimum to maximize that 4% company match, and then up to that goal of around 10% from your own contributions. And as an example, I wanted to just share kind of a sample paycheck scenario in a pre-tax option. If you were to go and save, or let's say 5% was the number in your mind, and say, okay, I'm going to do 5%. Let's say your weekly or semi-weekly paycheck's $1,000. If you're going to save 5% of that $1,000 paycheck, that's $50. And then that company match is going to be 4% of that paycheck, which is $40, combined for a total of $90. So you're saving $50 plus the company $40 for a total of $90. That's going into your retirement plan for you. What you're going to see from a net effect to your take-home pay isn't going to drop by that full $50 if you're doing a pre-tax contribution. It may only drop by about $25 or $30. So that $30 or $25 drop, but you're receiving a $90 benefit as it goes into your plan. So you can almost, in that scenario, is you're dropping by $30, but you're almost getting triple the benefit by putting it into your retirement plan with the company match and the tax savings. So it's a great way to save for retirement and start, adding to that overall account balance. I'm going to pause there. Are there any questions that either of you have about traditional and Roth, or the how much, or the company match at all?
No, Ian, thanks.
Okay. So one quick thing is you can put in a flat dollar amount per pay period. I do not recommend it, and the purpose because is if you're hourly employee and you're working part-time or out sick 1 week, that amount is going to come out of your paycheck regardless if it's a full paycheck or a half or a partial one. So if you're going to save, say, $100 per paycheck, and your paycheck's normally $1,000, and $100 will come out. But even if it's $500, that $100 is still going to come out. We do recommend folks utilize that percentage rather than that flat dollar amount. The IRS limit for 2019 contributions from an employee is $19,000. So the maximum any employee can save in a 401k plan is $19,000. If you're over age 50, you can put in an additional $6,000 for a total of $25,000. If that does apply and you are looking to get to those limits, reach out to us. We can help tabulate what percentage of your overall income could be so you can get to that goal, towards the end of the year. I'm going to hop over to the investment piece, which is on the second page of this paper PDF enrollment form. It lists about 30 or so investment choices available to each of you. All of these investment choices are all institutional grade mutual funds. And what that means to you as an investor is they're all low cost investment choices, or the lowest cost available. And then also with that, each of these investments are all top quartile performers, or some of the best investment choices available in that asset class. So you have great performing funds and low cost options. Part of Mark and I's job is to make sure that this retirement lineup, or this retirement investment lineup, is dynamite today, but also every quarter into the future, we are reviewing this with heavy scrutiny. If there's a fund that does not meet certain criteria for consecutive quarters, we're going to pull it out and we'll replace it with like-kind investments that is a top performer and low-cost investment. So it's constantly getting improved over time, and we're always watching and monitoring it to make sure that you have the best investment choices to pick and choose from. With that being said, we know that having great investments, low-cost investments, and we're always updating it, doesn't help with the decision on the investments. So part of our advice and education to you as participants is we put together what's called a model asset allocation guide to help with that investment decision today, but also into the future. So I've actually zoomed this up into my screen so you can see it a little bit better on your end, but this is a one-page document that will be included in the email, and we'll be updating this every single quarter, along with a newsletter and some other saving information that will come out. All of the investment choices are listed on that left-hand column. The asset class that they represent is on that second one. The ticker symbol is on the third. So if you care to do some more research or wanted to look into the holdings inside of that mutual fund, you can pull that up into Google and plug that in, or go into Morningstar. There's also fund fact sheets that are on that 55-page plan document as well, that booklet as well. This top larger rectangle is going to be more for the ones that want to be a little bit more hands-on with your investment selection. We've built 5 model portfolios that are diversified across multiple asset classes based off of that risk tolerance and that equity to fixed income ratio. So from an education standpoint, folks that are younger in general will tend to be more aggressive because they're looking for growth in their portfolio rather than preservation of assets from what they've saved. So we tend to see folks that are in their 20s and 30s and even into their mid to late 30s will tend to be in that aggressive column, or 80-20. And then folks in their 40s and 50s will tend to be in that moderate aggressive column, or that second to right. And then 50s, late 50s, early 60s, even through the 60s will tend to be in that moderate 50-50 column. So depending on your age and then time frame left into retirement, there's normally a range where it would make most sense for you to take that appropriate level of risk. And then folks that are in retirement or nearing retirement would then be in some of these lower ones or more conservative mentality. The ask of the individual is, if you're going to follow one of these guides or one of the columns, is that you pay attention to the quarterly updates that come out via email from us. And those emails will have this attachment. The ask of you is just to literally pull up that sheet, go log into your username and password, and make sure these percentages line up with what your investment selections are. We do from time to time change these percentages from, say 6% to 8%, make adjustments to it, or go out of one fund and go into another. We want to give you the best possible chance of having the best possible return, over a period of time. So just being mindful and keeping up to date with that is best. So it's a little bit more of a hands-on approach. For those who want to be a little bit more hands-off, we have what's called the target date series available to investors. And the target date funds work in the way that you would do the math around what year it will be when you reach age 65, and that's going to put you into one of these target date ranges. As you can see, from 2055 to 2060. So if you're 2058, then that's going to be your most appropriate target date fund, would be that 2060 fund, or the closest one. And you would go 100% into that one fund. And the target date funds work very similar to the columns above, as they're aggressive when you're younger, and then they de-risk over time every 5 years, ultimately becoming about a 50-50 portfolio at retirement. So the ones in blue that I've highlighted, they're going to be very similar to that aggressive column. They're going to have 80 to 90% in equities and stocks. And then the next 4 are going to be more in that moderate aggressive column, or 60 to 70% in stocks or equities. And then the last 3 that are closer to the given year, they're going to be folks that are in their late 50s, early 60s, even into your mid 60s. And those are going to be closer to that 50-50 mentality, or 50-50 blend. And again, starts out at 90% in equities, de-risks every 5 years, ultimately becoming about a 50-50 portfolio at retirement date or nearing that. Again, one option, hands-on; second option, hands-off. The third is totally up to you. You have the keys to the car. You have full discretion over what investments you want to pick and choose from. We just wanted to help provide a roadmap and a guide for you on the investment selection, making sure that you're picking something that's appropriate and also diversified. There are no trading costs of going in and out of any of these investment choices, so you could literally change your investments every single day if you would like, with no costs at all on that. On the bottom of this document is also Mark and I's contact information. It'll be included in the email as well. So if you do have any one-on-one questions that you want to ask, or email us the questions, feel free to reach out to us at any time. This is not a one and done conversation that we're having. as other employees become eligible in the plan, we'll be doing other enrollments like this. This enrollment will be available via YouTube video link shortly after this as well. So let us know if there's anything that we can help with. I wanted to pause there before hopping back to the paper PDF form and covering over two last things, but is there any questions on the investments at all?
Yes, Ian, if you're involved, if I'm enrolled in one of these plans that you decide that you're taking it out of that, you're taking it out of, do you invest it in something else, or does it still remain in that fund, and we're notified?
Yeah, so there'll be disclosures and notifications that will get sent out automatically to participants if there's a fund that gets replaced and removed. So if there's a fund that gets removed and replaced, every employee will get notifications about that. And that happens automatically. There's no heavy lifting that's done automatically on behalf of retirement plan consultants and us. And that fund will get pulled out. And if you had a balance or any monies invested in that fund, is that it will automatically get mapped over to that new fund overnight. So there's nothing that the individual will have to do on transferring that balance or anything that they'll be done. It'll, like, as an example, this JP Morgan large cap value fund. If this fund fell out of favor, we would replace it with another large cap value fund. Let's just say it's Wells Fargo large cap value fund. That overnight, that JP Morgan money would get sold and then rebought into the Wells Fargo large cap value fund, and it would automatically show up there the next day. So there would be no cost at all and no information that the participant would have to do.
And then if we didn't happen to like the fund that y'all put it into, we could still move it into another fund, right?
Absolutely. Yep. You have full discretion over making any adjustments and any changes at all at any time of whatever you're invested in.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. So I'm going to hop back to the enrollment form. Again, if you're filling this out as a waiver and not to participate, you do need to sign the last page of this document as well. It's just 2 pages, and provide that back to Philip. There is, on the next page of the PDF version, is a beneficiary designation form. You can complete this information all online as well. So be mindful, you don't have to print out anything again. In the event that you are completing this beneficiary form online or in the paper, I wanted to create a little bit of an example so you know what's going on. A beneficiary is important because if you pass away, the monies that you've accumulated or rolled into the plan go to whom you wish. And in an example, husband and wife couple with 2 children, the spouse would be listed as primary beneficiary at 100%, and then the 2 children would be listed as contingent beneficiaries at 50% apiece. So contingent, second place, primary is first place. Now, one thing I did want to mention, this is an IRS rule. If this does apply to you, you have to complete the paper form. You cannot do it online. But in the event that you are skipping your spouse as primary beneficiary, or she's not, or he's not first in line, they have to acknowledge that they're being skipped, and a witness notary also needs to be present as well. It kind of goes back to, your spouse is entitled to half of everything. It's kind of that same premise here. So don't want to create any arguments at the dinner table, but just want to acknowledge that that is something that is important for you to be aware of. And then the last and final thing we wanted to talk about is the plan account rollover. In the event that you've got an old 401k account or an old IRA account that's out there, it's maybe not being paid attention to that much, you're not sure what it's invested in, what the costs are, or anything like that, you have the opportunity, if you are eligible to participate in the plan, you can roll over those assets or roll over those money into the 401k plan. And also in turn, is if you're no longer employed with the company and you've got monies in there or you've rolled monies into it, it works on the outbound as well. As this rollout form would be a process to get the money out to either an IRA, 401k, or another investment account of your choice. So the monies really kind of follow you wherever you go and wherever you're working. And the reason being is I can't tell you the countless times where we've talked to participants where they've said, hey, I've worked for a company, it's been about 10 years. I'm pretty sure I had a 401k plan with them, but I don't know where it's at and how much money I have in it. We don't want that to be part of your story. So be mindful that you're paying attention to your logins, you're updating your contact information with that provider, and you're staying in touch with your money, because it is your money. It's your responsibility to keep track of it. So having it in one spot, or having it in the spot that's, you know, most convenient to you of reviewing it and seeing it, is going to be best case scenario. So if that does apply, and you do want to roll over money, there's a whole team at the Provider Retirement Plan Consultants. And to you, Philip, Stephanie Wolf, for all of the participants in the plan, will actually be a dedicated representative that will actually handle and help do all of those rollovers from that company that they're leaving over to the new plan. So if that does apply to anybody, we can get them in touch with Stephanie, and they can help with that transition and help make sure it goes so smooth. And that is all the information that we wanted to cover. Again, there's a couple documents. The most important one is going to be that online enrollment packet with this piece here. Let's get started. And then if you have any questions, again, go reference pages 9 through 15 for the step-by-step guide. And then, of course, we're available for any questions that either of you have as well. So I'm going to open it up for any final questions or comments that either of you have.
Ian, I don't have any questions on it.